Hey, what's up, Canada and beyond? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grannies and gators. It is Friday, October 4th. Did you guys tune in for that marathon that we had last night? I do kind of have my voice back, but I don't expect it to hold out very long. So it's a good thing that we have the resident financial whisperer, Bryce, in the house tonight so that he can do most of the talking. Right? You see how I did that, Bryce? That's pretty slick, eh?
You are a
Uh,
pretty smart guy, man. I don't know if anybody told you today, man, but not only are you good looking and a good person, man, you're a smart guy.
Yeah, well, the ears lowered, yeah, took all the pressure off. So,
I actually got a haircut so I could compete with you, so thanks for noticing.
crazy days these days. I mentioned there's there's finally, I think in Canada some due and warranted focus of attention and organization of people that are coming together and realizing, wait a minute, maybe our government really is trying to do some terrible things, and it's not just conspiracy theorists when it's their own paperwork that is providing the discussion. So we've been seeing a lot of people uh, getting into the discussion about what's going on in the Senate. And so that prompted what's turned a 1 hour show yesterday into a 4.5 hour marathon cross platforms, a couple of Twitter spaces, and a whole bunch of new people to the community. So that's why I wanted to take a minute and thank everybody that did dial in, did tune in over the last few days. We've got a lot of new friends, family, and patriots, prisoners, and hostages out there that are joining our community. So I want to say thank you to everybody that's there. Make sure that you've double checked that you're subscribed and you're getting your notifications if you're new here. And if you are new here, it's a community effort. Your likes, shares, and support is what drives this platform. So that's why I rattle on to the folks that aren't new here. Hit that thumbs button, smash the like, smash the heart, wherever you're tuning in from. Make sure that you get plugged in on Substack as well. So that's my general scheduled maintenance for the day. Lots going on this week, Bryce. I don't know if we're going to even get to it all, but let's start with something that is your wheelhouse, the precious metals. And I know I got an email from you guys a couple of days ago saying, hey, you might want to look at what silver is doing.
Yeah, so you can bring up my screen, and I just want to show people what's happening with silver and gold right now. So for the last couple of weeks, I don't know, actually the last couple all year, really. We've been like, oh, gold's at an all-time high. Gold's at an all-time high. Well, there's something I want to show you with silver and why I am so pro-silver. And before I do that, though, I want to take a moment to appreciate everybody that's reached out. There's been a bunch of people that have called us up this week and in the previous few weeks asking about this. How do I protect my wealth? What am I going to do with my retirements or this cash that I don't trust the government or the bank and such and so forth? So just want to thank everybody for reaching out. Happy to hop on a call with anybody. If you want to reach me, you can reach out on the link below this, or on Facebook directly, or you can reach me on Twitter at any time. I take death threats and reach outs from everybody.
Well, but I gotta add in there so I don't have to issue any death threats. If you find your way to Bryce's phone, make sure that you let them know, or let Bryce know, that you found him and his wealth of expertise through this platform.
Yeah,
Uh,
we
that's why
always
we're
ask.
partners.
Yeah. We always ask. So we always try to make sure that all of the people that we work with get paid properly. And that's
Yeah.
why we're working with so many organizations. So what I'm showing here is kind of two things. So the first is the price of gold and silver. So silver actually hit $33 today. So that's kind of a high for like a 52-week high that we basically hit today. And so what typically happens in bull runs, historically anyway, for the last 100 odd years, is that when gold goes up, silver follows it, but it goes further and faster in relation to itself. So it means like if gold goes up by 2 times or whatever, silver will go up 3 or 4 times. If gold goes up 10 times, silver will do 12 or 15 or something like that. And so each time we've had a bull run, gold and silver have done 10x from where they started at the beginning of that bull run. And so we're kind of in the beginning. The beginning happened a couple of years ago, truly, when COVID started. That was kind of one of the moments where it really started to take off. But in the last year, gold is up 40%. So like literally, so we're at October 4th. So on October 18th last year, gold was 1850. So we're almost $1,000 within a year. And that is a barometer of chaos in the world, because that typically doesn't happen unless there's forces pushing it up. And there are a lot of forces pushing it up. Now, I said I cared about silver a lot more, and let me give you a couple of reasons why. So silver right now is at 32, 33 roughly, right? But the big thing about silver is it's an industrial material far more than gold. And there's a massive, massive demand and a shortage in supply. So there's only about a third of the silver that's pulled out of the ground that comes from silver-specific mines. And that's from actually BC, where I'm from. Peru, China, and Mexico are the four main places that silver comes from actual silver mines, right? There's a whole bunch of silver that comes from gold mining, lead, zinc, and copper. I remember this time. Those are the four main ones. And so all those four put together, that's where the majority of silver comes from. And so the silver specific mines are actually declining because they're nearing the end of their lifespan. So production is going down, and there's probably about 100 million to 200 million deficit in ounce demand for all of the electric vehicles and solar panels and all sorts of other stuff, military. There's a huge, huge uses for silver because it's the most conductive element there is, better than copper. So copper is number 2, actually. And so what this means is that for there to be a significant demand and not enough supply, prices got to go up to accommodate that. And so people have asked me this week when they hopped on a call, it's like, hey, I still want to make, yeah, I don't. If I'm whispering, I'm pissed.
Right? I just want to roll through some really great comments here while you're educating us. But I wanted to get to this one. I love to see great minds in action and getting results. So I'm glad to see that, Mountain Man. You getting your loot. Awesome. Sorry.
There's a thing from David Doyle that I'll get back to, because he asked about excess equity in his account because he signed up for an account. So I'll get to that in a sec after I explain this. So what I'm talking about with silver here. So what am I showing right now, right? So this is a gold and silver ratio. So I try to explain this so you get the kind of the underlying forces that we're really talking about. So when you're talking about an item that is there's a ratio that you pay of that item to as many dollars as you need to buy that item. So we call that the price of that item, right? So an apple is $1. Now it's $2, right? So that went up by 100% in cost, right? So the ratio for one apple doubled, right? And so when you're talking about economic things, we always think of economic things in terms of dollars because that's the currency that we've grown up in, and that's what runs the world essentially. So we look at everything through that lens. But one of what I'm trying to show here is this is what's called the gold-silver ratio. And I think I've explained this a couple times before, but I'll do it briefly here today again. And so back in Roman times, this ratio was 1 to 12. Right now, it's 82.3 or 82.4. So what that means is for every ounce of gold, it takes essentially 82 to equal that value of gold. And so when people ask, like, what's the better investment between the two? This is one of the ways that you can determine what is the best value, because it's either undervalued or overvalued. And so the average price, this is what this is looking at, the actual ratio over time. So back in 72, it was down at 15. So gold was the better investment there because you got it was how to explain this. The higher the ratio, the more undervalued silver is an easy way to explain that. And so when silver got all the way up to like 125, and this is what I was saying in 2020, 2021, this is when the real bull market started to accelerate. And so what I'm doing right now, this is my investment strategies. I'm buying silver because the ratio is so high. So what will happen, right, is if I buy a whole bunch of silver at essentially a discount, and the silver price rises, and that the gold silver ratio declines, gets smaller, I can then sell that silver, buy gold, and I've essentially bought gold at discount without actually using my own money, if that makes sense. So I'm getting it at a double discount, essentially.
Right, because the value the volume per value exchange changes so quickly that you're able to get yeah, I kind of get it. Um, Question here from Bill McDonald, one we haven't had it come across here. What's the recommended way to sell silver, Bryce?
Good question. So if you have it in your hand, typically you'll want to sell that directly to somebody else, because like the purpose of precious metals, as I've explained before, is to be able to make a transaction for somebody, right? So if you want to get back into fiat currency, it's a little bit more difficult, because if you go to like an exchange, which is one of the ways that you can do that, that's the official way to do it. You have to pay a bunch of fees, they'll ask a bunch of questions. It's a bit of a hassle. You can still do it, but that's one of the ways. So there are companies that buy silver and gold directly from the public. We're not one of them. However, that being said, our wholesale program allows you to buy precious metals, and it's connected to the system, but not in the system, in the sense that you can sell your holdings and get back into fiat directly from our system. And one of the things that I've been explaining to people, and why I use the system, is why we sell the system, is because we think it's one of the best opportunities on the market. And here's why. Because if you think of your total net worth, right? Let's just say everybody has $100,000. I know some people don't have that much, but let's just say for a second, right? So let's say you have $100,000 and your expenses are $10,000 a year. Okay, $10,000 a year basically means that you have enough money for 10 years. Okay, because you're taking $10,000 out, $10,000 out, $10,000 out, right? If you do something different, and this kind of goes down to what an asset is. So, like, if you heard Robert Kiyosaki back in the day, like Rich Dad Poor Dad guy, right? An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket, and a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket, right? And so what you can do with precious metals right now with the system is that you can essentially double dip on your money. So what that means is that if you took that $100,000 and you put it into precious metals, let's just say that it's all silver, right? So you put it all into silver, and you've got $100,000 more or less of silver, right? So now you can actually loan against that, and a guaranteed loan. So normally what people do to get a loan is they go to the bank and say, please give me the monies. And they say, we'll check into you. We don't really know you. We'll take a look at you. How much money do you have? And, a bajillion questions, and they can still reject you if they don't like the cut of your jib or whatever, right? So with this, because our system has the collateral, which is the gold or silver, is you're guaranteed to get a loan. So essentially what you can do is, I'm going to hold on to the asset and still pull the equity out. So think of it like a home equity loan, in a sense that if I own my house, I can pull some of the equity out of it. The way that that works is that you have to go to a bank and get accepted for that. This is different in the sense that you don't have to go to a bank. It's automatically, and it's guaranteed. And so what you can do with this is essentially double dip on the money that you have and say, give me this asset that is growing in value significantly right now. And now's a really good opportunity to do this, because the market is going up. So what you can do is you can take that money, let's say you've got 100,000, put it in there. And now let's say it goes up in value by double. It goes up to like $60 or something like that. Now you've got $200,000 in equity that you can pull out at will, and they'll loan up to 80% of what your holdings are. So if that number, if the equity, and this is kind of going into David's question about excess equity. So if that and maybe I should explain it, what excess equity is. Excess equity in what our system does means the maximum amount of money that you can pull out or finance to buy additional metal. So our system is kind of unique in the sense that either you can take a loan out against the metal. You can do both of these, actually. You can take a loan out against the metal, and we'll give you the cash, and you can take it out and you can use it however you see fit. Or you can use that money to finance additional purchases. And so this is one of the ways that you can make money on the bull run, is that you can take that money. I'm just going to use the 100,000, right? So you can say, give me $100,000 in silver. Cool. Would you like to finance it? Yes. We'll just say you finance it 50%, which basically means that you take half of you essentially double the value of the metal that you buy, because you're taking out a finance loan that gives you double the amount of silver or gold that you get for that $100,000. So you can essentially get $200,000 in silver for $100,000, which is basically how the math works at 50%. So if silver doubles in value at that time, you've essentially made $200,000 with a $100,000 investment. This is kind of how the math works.
I kind of think like Connie. I'm a hoarder. Yes, everybody hit that thumbs up, guys. There's more people watching here than have given us some thumbs. So Here's an interesting comment. Lone Arnie's got a couple. I'm not sure what this is referring to
Oh,
exactly.
that's the currency pair for FX foreign exchange. And so what that's saying is the exchange rate for USD to Canadian is 135, and that's actually gone down a little bit because it was about 141 last time I checked. Was, to be fair, about a month ago.
Yeah, we do watch Japan pretty closely here, Connie. That's going to be kind of where it's going to show itself first when it goes crazy. For
Can you bring
mid,
up? Sorry, go ahead.
nope.
I was just. Oh, this goes.
Speculators are saying up to 40-1 silver gold ratio.
Yeah,
By mid
that's a
2025.
perfect example. So what would have to happen if gold was to continue? Let's just say gold hit 3,000, right? So I'll show you how the math works. Actually, that's a great question. So so the gold silver ratio right now. So let's say that gold is $3,000. It goes up to $3,000 by the end of the year or January next year, or whatever. So $3,000, right? So now if the gold and silver ratio is 40, so you just take that by 40. What's 40? That's the price of silver. That's what that ratio means. So they're making a prediction essentially that silver will hit 75.
Right. Here's an interesting question from Carly.
Yeah, I was just going to
What's
bring
your
that one up.
thoughts on junk silver, Bryce?
So so my thoughts on it are if you get a hold of it. So normally what junk silver is like silverware and shit from like dimes from 1950 and basically stuff that isn't official bullion but is still silver. You don't know necessarily how pure it is or what
Right.
it's used for, or it's non-official silver is essentially what junk silver is. So there is an opportunity there, but there's a process to making it official. So if you wanted to use it as currency, as an example, you'd have to go to essentially a refinery and like get it turned into bullion if you were going to use it in that way. Otherwise, you just be like, hey, I've got this silver thing that you want to trade. Yeah,
That's
that exactly.
ultimately exactly how I come across by these kinds of things through independent places that do exactly that. They take a lot of people's junk silver and they refine it, smelt it, and
Yeah.
stamp it into these wonderful little coins.
Yeah, exactly. And so just to finish my thoughts on that, so there's an opportunity there if you can. So let's say you go to like a garage sale or something, and somebody's got a bunch of actual silverware from like 1850 or something. Yeah, that's probably a whole bunch of actual silver that's probably worth quite a bit if you actually had it melted down. But they're giving it away for next to nothing because they don't know, right? So
Yeah.
there is an opportunity there, but if you're not willing to invest some time, effort, and energy into it, I mean,
It's not.
it's a hobby for some people.
Yes, it's not the easiest thing to make a hobby, but it's not crazy hard to do either. Another one from
Exactly.
Lone
Yeah.
Arnie here.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so there are so there's a so if anybody wants to really look into what could be the price of silver in the future, there's a really great expert who's actually Canadian named Peter Krauth. I'll put him right here, Peter Krauth, and so he has a book called $300 Silver. $300 silver, or is it the Silver Bull? I think it's $300 silver. $300 silver is silver. I'll check on that. I'll confirm that. But Peter Krauth, anyway, so he makes the case for $300 silver, right? And so one of the things that's happening in precious metals is they're considering and discussing the repricing of gold so that all of the countries with gold can pay off other massive amounts of debt. Yeah, exactly. And right now it's 85. This is kind of my point, right? So the first bull runs actually started in like 2001, really, from from the beginning of this century, which is 2000. Gold and silver has done about 8 to 9% per year. So that's a really good investment just to hold on to something, right? And now we're in what we call a secular bull market, where it's going to skyrocket because of all of the other pressures, some of which I mentioned today.
This
Good
question
question.
from Michelle. I don't think there's anything after 1974 or 76. I think that
I think it's
has
a
any
little bit
silver in it in
before that.
Canada.
The number I remember is like 67 or 69 or something like that,
Yeah,
but you might be right. I don't
yeah,
remember what the last year was, to be honest.
yeah. Canada got rid of any actual value in their
No,
coins, went to
don't even have
allies.
pennies anymore. It's so worthless.
Yeah, right. 100%. Yeah, but
So that's kind of the overview of one of the ways that you can look at what's more valuable as an investment. Because the ultimate thing that I think I would want to get into is some of my investment into gold, but I want to have enough silver that if I ever need to make actual transactions in person with somebody, I have enough. And somebody made the comment that a silver coin could feed a family in Venezuela for like a month or something, just with the amount of value that it was compared to everything else, right? So a hard asset, and gold and silver specifically, when hyperinflation is happening, is very, very valuable because the ratio of dollars or currency units or whatever that's being inflated or deflated away, whatever the case happens to be, is, I don't want to say immutable, but irreplaceable. I'll use.
I did see a couple of comments here from Little Farmer that she was probably going to reach out to you next week for some advice, and I hope that she does that rather than go to Costco for your silver. Not that I'm having any issues with the silver at Costco. It's just that it's Costco. That's the cabal, and if they're selling you silver, they're making money off of you. So find somebody that's not the cabal. Gold
Yeah,
Silver Bull is great. Bryce is great. And absolutely, Michelle, there's more of an upside to silver. It's something
yeah,
that's
much
easier
more,
to get into, and it's a
much
much,
more.
much higher upside. Yeah,
Yeah, like my
I
real
think you're right
concern.
on this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. It was about the time I was thinking. Because Robert Kiyosaki mentioned something similar. Uh, yeah, exactly. And so this is what I was saying too, is that there's been certain times where we've seen the low, and there's certain times where we see the high, and I don't think we're anywhere near the high right now, because there's a really old saying that you buy when there's blood on the streets. Well, the blood isn't on the streets yet, even though there's lots of pain happening all over the place. The blood ain't on the streets yet, but it is coming. I assure you.
Yep,
Yes.
that's what's allowing the BRICS to do what the BRICS gonna do, and they've got 30 new nations coming to the next conference next month, I think it is, and they've established their currency now. And I think it was the currency. No, they're yeah, the currency. They're everything's going to be based on ruble, yen, and gold. Uh, so they're making their move, and that is really, really going to hurt things in the U.S.
Yeah.
And us too, incidentally. 1 ounce coins to make liquid or larger bars to make it a cheaper purchase.
Good
That's
question.
a tough call. Yeah.
To me, it's actually a fairly easy call, because you don't really save that much on the higher order amounts. So we're talking like a couple percentage points. So if the goal, and this is why I always question people about what are you trying to achieve with what you're trying to do, right? So if the goal is to be able to make purchases or make transactions with silver, you don't want higher amounts, because it's just, that means you're going to have to either chunk it out somehow, and that's difficult to do, or you're
Yeah.
talking about a larger purchase, right? So if you're
Yeah.
trying to
And
make transactions, you want smaller denomination coins.
I,
So
I'm
you don't
I'm
save that
actually
much.
seeing things like tractors being bought and sold in silver bullion.
Yeah,
This is
exactly,
happening. Yeah, yeah.
exactly, and that's what I mean. So if you're trying to save space, as an example, then yeah, sure, maybe you want some kilogram bars or something like that. Like a kilogram bar, I think is like 13 or $1,400 right now or something. I'd have to check on that. I can pull it up if you want. But like it's not that much money, really. So like the real value of silver is that it's a smaller denomination for daily essentials and like doing transactions with other people. Because if you want to do those larger transactions, like Christine Austin Fitz, is that her name? Christine Austin Fitz? Is it
Catherine Austin
Lynn?
Fitz.
Catherine, yeah. Catherine Austin Fitz. She made the prediction that you'll be able to buy a house with half an ounce of gold at some point. She might be right about that, but she's also predicting like 20 or 30,000 gold or something like that, which is possible, because the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, which is essentially the central bank of central banks, that's what they're talking about. They're discussing doing this. So she might be right, and in which case, this is why I'm saying that if you have the opportunity to get a whole bunch of silver now, get into some of the gold at discount, and then you have that opportunity too, because you gotta remember that the central banks are buying this in the tons, in thousands of tons at a time, and all
Mhm.
of the production that's happening right now is going somewhere, right? So they are preparing for this, and the like you were just saying, the BRICS countries, they're going to use gold as a 40% support for their digital currency, whatever stupid nonsense they're going to try and roll out.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring up this one from Carol,
Good question.
so I want to make a point of this, and just to reaffirm this. I think we do this at most every show, if not. But when you and I started doing this, Bryce, this was about helping people more than anything, and that's one of the things that I've appreciated about you. So, Carol, with New World Precious Metals, the company that Bryce actually works for, I believe it's a $5,000 minimum purchase there.
Yep.
But we don't do this to make sure that you go to New World Precious Metals. Get whatever you can, wherever you can, where it's the safest, best bet. We also recommend Gold, Silver, Bull. Use them for years. Get nothing for sending people there. It's not about advertising or selling for anybody else. This is just Bryce was the first one to come into a relationship and to want to work with our community, specifically that to help people protect themselves whatever way they could. So hawk shops do sell silver too. I mentioned it's surprising 10 ounces sold out. I'm seeing a lot moving on Facebook marketplaces
Yeah, there's a
right
lot on
now.
Facebook Marketplace. So to answer, sorry to cut you off, but the lady that was asking about junk silver, that's a good place to find people, to find silver to buy, because people will just be like, hey, I've got these coins here, I don't know what they're worth. They don't even check. They're just like, here, what's your best offer? And you can usually pick up a whole bunch of silver coins that are somewhat old or dingy or whatever for basically a discount.
Yeah, you can buy almost anything in it, and I'm actually kind of surprised at the quality of some of the silver that I'm seeing moving around in the market. People have been stockpiling it for a very long time, actually, and they're starting to let go a little bit of it because some of these people bought it at $15 an ounce.
Yeah. Exactly. And so they've doubled their money, right? But you're getting back into fiat. And I wouldn't sell any of my silver right now until it hits triple digits, personally.
Yeah. And I see some people that are looking for how do they get a hold of Bryce. And again, whatsupcanada.org, you'll find a link. Bryce's X connection or handle is in the show description. Unless you're on X, they don't let us add a show description, but go to whatsupcanada.org. There's a button there. It says precious metals, and you can actually schedule an appointment to talk with Bryce. Otherwise, you'll be getting calls in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Yeah. So anybody that reaches out through the link below the video, you'll be able to talk to me, basically, because I take all the leads that comes from Wade. So if you want to talk to me, you can do it that way, or you can just reach out on Facebook. And like I said, I'll talk to anybody, even people that death threat me.
Well, and this is something that I a lot of people are talking about. Exactly, Don. People are going to get. We know that there's a financial crash coming. Whatever currency is going to look like after that, we don't have any idea. But at least you can guarantee that your precious metals will buy you whatever kind of currency you need. Moving forward, whether it's Canadian, US, rubles, yen, wherever you end up, silver and metal will buy you currency, where our fiat right now won't buy you squat.
Yeah, and that's kind of a good point, is that the universality of precious metals it's one of the very few things that doesn't care about your language, doesn't care about your skin color, doesn't care about anything. As long as you have the thing in your hand, somebody can make the decision to trade it. Now, some people won't know, well, how much is that worth, or what do I get for it, or whatever. So that's kind of what one of the drawbacks to it. But at the end of the day, it's still a ratio of what you have to what somebody else is willing to pay for it, right? Just like I was saying at the beginning. But in this respect, this asset is interchangeable between all other currencies. Like they're all currencies have a ratio that they will exchange that precious metals for, which is why it's so valuable.
Maybe you want to address this one from Connie.
Bank debt recently changed the sunset clause. There's no domestic or foreign bank will operate in Canada. It was June 30th. Now June 30th, 2026. I haven't heard about that. So that's the Bank Act in Canada.
Yeah, that's what she would be referring to.
Post a link to that in the chat, and I'll check it out because I actually haven't heard of that, because I know that they were talking about it, but I didn't know it went through.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why I want to refer to everybody. Get it wherever, this is just at Gold's, pardon me, at New World Precious Metals. It is, that is a lot for some people. And that's why we talk about Gold, Silver, Bull and other places as well. We just want to make sure that everybody can do what they can wherever they're at. If you've got the capabilities, great. Love to talk to you guys. But if you don't, just look after yourselves. That's more than anything. Look after yourself.
Yeah, and sorry, what was I just going to say? So not the Bank Act. I just thought it's gone. I was going to say something important. I had it. Now it's gone. Oh well, whatever. I'll come back to it if I remember.
Yeah. See, Mountain Man
Oh,
does both.
I remember. So yeah, so I say this anytime somebody is like, "Hey, $5,000 a lot." Hey, I totally get it. So if you just want a small amount, you can just go to silvergoldbull.ca, and they'll send you any amount of metal. You can buy 1 ounce if you want. I think it's like $50 or something like that. You pay a little bit more that way, so we can save people usually like 2 to 4% on the price of silver. Gold is pretty universal. Like the margins are so low. Like we make basically 1% on the retail gold, so it's really not worth our time. I mean, we'll still do it for clients, but we always will. It's literally our job. But it's just like if you want a small amount of gold or silver, you can just go to silvergoldbull.ca. They're great. They're one of our partners, and they'll help you out. They'll just send it right to your door. It's insured the whole way. They're great. So the other aspect of that is if $5,000 is a lot to you, the number one thing that you want to get right now is food. Right? Just go and get 5-gallon buckets, put a Mylar bag in them, stuff it full of food, seal it. That will be worth more than gold and silver because it will keep you and your family alive. And so I had a chat with Take Action Canada, I think. Do you know about those guys?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I talked to them this week, and they have a whole bunch of stuff that they do for helping people out and stuff. But what I'm saying is that if you have limited resources, you're in a limited capacity, just get the stuff that's going to keep you alive, right? Because that's the most important thing. Gold and silver are used as an intermediary for resources that you don't have that you want. In the same way, you have resources now. Use the resources that you have now to get what you're going to need, because at some point, what we have is going to be fairly limited and scarce. And so you want to use the connection to the system that we have now, because it's still operating and functional, to get what you need now. So food investment is probably the best investment that you can make, because you'll guaranteed be able to trade that to somebody else that don't have any, or keep yourself alive, as the case may be.
Well, there's a testimonial. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, thank you, Carol.
Yeah, you've done way better with New Precious Metals than with the banks, and the bank's not going to get it from you anymore.
Oh, and maybe that's something to mention, actually. So I've said this before, and anybody that has a financial advisor or somebody that they deal with at their bank, you can go and try this too. Go and ask them, is gold and silver a good investment right now? And if they say no, they're an idiot. They know what they're talking about. If they say yes, you can probably trust them that they know what the hell they're talking about. And I had, so one of our clients this week reached out, and she said, I went and tried this with 3 different banks, and they all said it was a bad investment, shouldn't do it, keep it in the bank, it's safer, right? Because their goal in the bank, they've got KPIs that they got to do too. They're trying to make sales, they're trying to make money, just like any other business, because that's what it is, right? They want as much of your money in the bank as possible. They don't care about your financial future.
I've seen 2 articles, one from the Financial Post this week, where they're becoming mortified about bank runs.
Yeah, they should be. Why is that? Because nobody trusts the stupid garbage that they're doing. And this is actually a really good point. So one of the things that they did to push off the financial collapse of the system is that they reduced it's a technical term for that. What's the ratio for the cash ratio of their assets? Cash asset ratio. How much money they have to have on hand to
I think
back
it's
up
10 to
things.
1.
It used to be 10 to 1. This is what I'm talking about. But there's a term for that. I can't remember the term, but you know what I mean. So basically, a bank has to keep X amount of cash on hand for how many assets they have. That used to be 10%. Then they halved it to 5%. Then they halved it to 3%. I think it's sitting at like 2.5% right now. So that means that however many assets they have out there, liabilities and all the other stupid stuff that they're doing, they only have to have 2.5% of cash on hand at any time. And so what that means basically, and what a bank run is that if we have, let's just say there's 10 people with $100,000, which is $1 million, and 2 of those people come and say, hey, I want all my money, but they only have 2.5%, which is $25,000, and they're like, hey, I need $200,000, give me my shit. Well, that's a bank run. And so whenever I talk about this, it's a really simple process to understand. Do you want to be first out of the bank, or do you want to be last out of the bank? Where you can't get your anything out. And the reason that I bring it up in that way is that because this is already happening in China. They you got to understand that China is in literally free fall right now, which is why they're pushing so heavily into gold, because I think that's what they're betting on, is that because their economy and the yuan as well is collapsing, is that if they can get enough gold to back up their currency, then when the USD falls, they'll just be like, well, hey, we're the only game in town now. So everything switches over to the BRICS currency, right? I think that's their game plan. I hope it doesn't happen, because that is a type of tyranny that I don't want to even envision. But
they actually have manufacturing and supply chain security in regardless of financial collapse in what we call the West over here right now. They're going to be okay if the U.S. petrodollar collapses, just based on the infrastructure and trade that they have with the Asian continent and with Russia. So they see the writing on the wall, and yeah, they're probably gambling on that, but they are going to make bigly when that inevitable day hits, unfortunately.
well, and this is kind of my point. So at some point, because what we're in essentially is an existential war for the West or the East, right? So the East is rising and the West is declining for a variety of reasons, some of which are intentional. But the system that was created was the Bretton Woods Agreement after the war, right? And that system is almost at the end of its lifespan. So they want to do probably the same thing with the Eastern people in the same way, but that'll be run by communism instead of freedom, quote unquote. But ultimately, the goal is still the same, right? They're going to do a central bank digital currency with yuan as much as they wanted to do it with the USD, because the TPP back in the day, like that was essentially the same thing as BRICS. And when Trump torpedoed that, they're like, oh yeah, well I guess America's going down.
So Connie's got some follow-up on that sunset provision, and I think that's exactly why they're juggling with this, is because they're not getting the CBDCs in like they thought they were going to, according to Trudeau's timeline, or Klaus's timeline.
Yeah, and I think it's an important point for everybody to realize, is that think of our society like this circle, right? There's a whole bunch of things. Actually, maybe I can bring this up actually on. Let me just show this. It's a better way to understand this.
This is an interesting comment. The bank blocked their purchase when we tried to buy a large amount of metals.
So one of the ways you can get around that, because if that was a purchase directly from the bank, they might have just said no, screw you. This is another reason why screw banks, right? But one of the things that we're able to do, as long as you can do a wire transfer, you can do a wire transfer, and it's just like, here, send my money to this bank at this place, right? And it's this account at this place. That's what a wire transfer is. And so if you send it to us, we make the purchase. That's why we're a brokerage, right? We're an official, 100% legal, 100% lawful organization specifically for precious metals, and so we can still do that. And we've had a couple instances where they didn't want to do it, but we're like, what do you mean you don't want to? This is somebody's money. Send the money. What are you talking about? What do you mean no? and so we've had that issue before, but we eventually got around it. So yeah.
You remember that series, Michelle? Years and years, where that was pretty disturbing when the banks started to collapse and people started to run on the banks. And when people started to run on the banks, well, then everybody that wasn't there first was running faster and harder and slamming their face into locked doors. Exactly, Carol. Simply lock the doors, and you're going to be shit out of luck.
Don't remember where I put this thing. Give me 1 second. I put it here somewhere. Oh, I think it's over here. Yeah, anyway, well, maybe I don't need the picture. So anyways, so let's just call that this circle is all of society, right? So you have all these different aspects of society. So like the law, the economy, transportation, economics, whatever. You have everything, right? So that attack, the ability to attack that is very wide. You have a very wide attack surface that you can try and attack people in a society, especially like ours that's very open. So we can be like, hey, we'll just import 1 billion people and we'll just see how that goes. And all of these people do all this stuff, right? So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do if the attack surface on an enemy is really large, right? And so what the what the how do I put this? The way that you can defend against that, right, is that there's a battle for each one of those things. So in each one of those spheres of influence, somebody is trying to accomplish somebody for nefarious purposes against us and everybody else. And the way that you can fight that is by taking a look at what are they trying to achieve through legislation or subterfuge or subversion or whatever, and say, hey, how are we going to stop that? Kind of goes back to the hand of change that I always talk about. And so there's a whole bunch of different areas in society that we're at war for our survival. So there's the political sphere, the economic sphere, the logistics, the economic, the blah, 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 manufacturing, all these different things. And so I say all the time that you don't have to be a superstar in everything to be a superstar in something. It really doesn't matter what you pick at this point. Even if you pick like, hey, me and my community are just going to start a community farm and we're going to grow food together. I mean, literally anything at this point is better than nothing, right? And what I'm trying to say with this example is that if you feel that like, hey, this isn't really my area of expertise, well, pick something that is important to you and go and talk to other people that have a similar experience or a similar interest and just work together with them and be like, hey, I can't do everything, but at least I can do one thing. I can do my part and I can be a soldier for good and try to defend ourselves, our families, and our society against all the stupid people trying to destroy it.
David, if the system crashes and the internet crashes and the currency crashes, what on earth would you want to change your silver and gold for as far as for currency? I don't think you want to do that at all at that point. So that's just my thinking on that. Hold on to it. If that's like in Appalachia right now, you starting up your Tesla to go and save people, using your bank cards to draw money out, that's not going to work, but gold and silver will still exchange.
Yeah,
So.
What he's talking about though is so we have the wholesale program, which is essentially a vaulted service. So what happens if power goes down? Good question. So if power goes down, you might not be able to get it until it comes back online. And so what we suggest, and so I'm in this boat too, like I'm invested in this just as much as everybody else, right? So like I think about this too. And so my plan, if that is the case, hopefully we don't wake up to a nuke one day and an EMP wipes out everything, fingers crossed. But at the end of the day, if any point before that, you can take delivery of your silver and gold from our process, and it usually takes about 5 to 7 days or something like that if you like to go through the process. So if you think that those things are coming down the pipeline in the near term, you can just have it delivered, or you can just buy the retail exclusively and have it shipped to you, and then you have it on hand. So I always tell people that you have the option of you have the choice between 3 options, which is in your hand, in the system, which is registered accounts, or the wholesale program, which is kind of in between. But if the power goes out, your main concern is going to be staying alive. And the silver on hand, which is why I always recommend people have about 10% if you buy with us in the wholesale program, have about 10% of that in actual physical in your hand, so that no matter what, you have something on hand.
Yeah. Financial advisors, I don't know too many, though, but they're probably going to would probably think that we're batshit crazy here every Friday too. They believe in the banking systems, unfortunately, and they're kind of like lawyers tied to the courts. Financial advisors are kind of tied to the banks. So that's the relationship and the risk that you run. And what may have worked for you financially in the past might not necessarily be a winning recipe coming up real soon. Given, to me, the big thing that scares me is the bail-ins. Them just deciding to take whatever they need. See, and that's kind of what Bryce was referring to earlier.
Yeah.
Get it out, take it cash, go and do elsewhere, e-transfer, whatever the case might be.
Yep. Yeah, and so let me actually touch on that, because this is a question I get all the time. So let's say that I have $100,000 in RSPs. What do I do and how do I do it? So the question is kind of twofold. So number one is what is your tax requirements for your RSP. So let's say they're like, hey, I don't trust the system anymore. I want to pull out my RSPs and put it into precious metals, maybe in physical or maybe in the wholesale program. So let's just make that as an example. So the question is, can you handle the ding that you're going to get hit with for the taxes? How much is that going to be? That could be 20%, that could be 30%, but it's usually not higher than that, depending on how much money you're making. And then the second part is, do you want it in physical or do you want it in the wholesale program? So we generally say that if you take cash out, or if you have cash at all, you can just put it in the wholesale program. You get all the benefits of the wholesale program, which is you can loan against it, you can double how much you have, such and so forth, right? You can have it shipped to you, blah, 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 right? And so the second question there is, is it more valuable to you to keep it in the RSP? And the question, underlying question there is, how much do you trust the system to still be there when you're retiring and when you need that, obviously? So if you don't trust it at all, well, you can pull it out. It's kind of the nice thing about Questrade in this respect is that the precious metals that you have, they're held at a Brinks vault. You can literally walk in and go look at your gold and silver. It'll cost you, I think, like $250, but you can still go there and actually look at it. It's sitting in a vault that you can go to and look and feel and touch your metal, right? So that's the nice thing about that. The drawback is that you have to you have to buy it at retail prices, so you're paying the premiums of like 10% for gold and roughly 15% for silver. And so it might make more sense to put it in a private vault, or it might make more sense to pull it all out and then have it all sent to you, right? It really depends on the question of how much do you trust the system and how much are you willing to give the government now instead of later, because that's what the RSPs are for. Is we're going to save a whole bunch of money for the future, and then you get it, when you pay less taxes. Essentially, that's the deal that you make for RSPs.
I think you're 100% on point here, Tom. They've been jerking people around, gaslighting everybody. It's definitely not going away. They're just, we are becoming high-headed, I think, is what they use in the cattle ranching industry, and it's causing them issues. But yeah, when it comes to the banks versus the credit unions, I think that you still, at the end of the day, still have the same question to answer. How much do you trust the system? Because they might buy you an extra 5 minutes, but they are ultimately still connected to the system.
Yeah, Bow Valley in Alberta made some significant effort to try and back their assets and be a legitimate credit union of the people. So I would trust credit unions more than I do the big banks. That being said, I don't trust my own credit union, which is Van City, more than I could throw it across the street, because they're ESG and DEI and all the other dumb nonsense that's being pushed, which is actually something I wanted to touch on today. But could you pull up the comment from Carrie Simon at 7:48 your time? It's right below the one that you just did, I think.
You gotta.
I'll just read it. It's fine. So Bryce, so do the RSP transfers trigger a tax event? Good to know. So let me be specific about what I mean. So if you wanted to move your RSPs from the institution that you currently have them at to Questrade to invest in precious metals, which is what we use, that's free. You only pay for the storage fee, the purchase and the sale of the metal. And there's a tax event when you sell to pull the money out. That's when the tax event gets triggered. So it depends on how much money you're making during that year that determines how much you get taxed. So if you made zero, you could probably pull out like $30,000 or so, and you wouldn't get taxed on it because you're not making any money. So there's a certain amount that's non-taxable, but it depends on how much you're making that year. And so that's what I'm talking about with you have to determine what's more value to me, keeping that amount of money in the RSP or pulling it out and keeping it safe. That's kind of the pull and the push.
Well, and so I see. So another comment there from Gary. So I could ask, how much is too much? Like I mean, and that's a reasonable question. How much is too much to put in gold and silver, and how much do you take? What do you do with your money if you don't trust the banks, but you don't want 500 pounds of silver and golds to deal with whatever you want to do something.
So the rule of thumb for an advanced investor or an informed investor is usually about 10 to 20% of your portfolio is precious metals, and that's in good times because it's supposed to be a hedge against inflation and the markets and all sorts of other black swan events. Is 10 to 20%. That's in times of peace and things are going normally and well. Well, we're not in peacetime anymore, so you can determine what that number is. Up to you. Typically what we see people, especially people that really don't trust the banks, are like, I don't trust any of these idiots. Get all of my money out there and here, take all my life savings and make sure it's safe and I have control over it. We've had people do that. Some people just put in like $20,000 or $50,000, but they have like a couple $100,000. I've talked to somebody this week that had a few $100,000. She's like, hey, I'm just putting in $100,000. That's cool too. It really doesn't matter. It's what the purpose here is for precious metals is to do two things: protect the wealth that you have and that you've earned over your lifetime, and make sure that you have the ability to do a transaction should you need to outside of the banking system. So if the goal is to protect your wealth, well, I wouldn't have anything in the markets right now because the markets are about to collapse, in my opinion. That's not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I see and from my long experience watching politics and the economy. That being said, if you want to invest in something and you don't think the economy is going to totally collapse, well, things that are very important, like mining, which is the lifeblood of all industry, are really good investments because, like I was saying, there's a lack of precious metals mines, right? So like precious metals mines, like silver and gold mines, can be very, very, very lucrative. Like some people get a 10x, 20x return if they get in early enough on a good projects. But those are longer term investments. So if you need something more immediate and short term, you can just get the metal itself and cut out all the other stuff, right? Because you still have exposure. So this kind of goes back to my kind of primary thing that I tell people. If you don't have enough money for doing gold and silver, or you still want to make an investment, food and hard assets, protection, things that are going to keep you and your family alive, and things that are going to be not available, right? So
Yeah.
when we had 2020 and everybody's like, oh, I need to buy toilet paper, and there was no toilet paper, like people made double their money on freaking toilet paper, right?
From
But
his cigarettes to sugar to cans of tuna, everything is going to be currency
exactly.
in that case and situation. Thanks, Diane. I am absolutely had the crap kicked out of me this week, and I am tired, but I'm going to catch up on some sleep over the next couple of days. I hope that is the plan. Um, Sorry, I just wanted to get through. These comments tend to run away on us sometimes, and I don't want to get too far behind. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, and people get missed. um, you know, not trying to minimize the challenge. Property is a good thing, and one thing I want people to remember is, the system might collapse, the banks might collapse, but the world isn't going to end.
As long as it isn't nuked into out of existence, yeah.
Yes, and I don't see a nuclear holocaust ending the world as my understanding of
No.
God wins. So I'm hopeful that we're going to avoid the nuclear catastrophe, and the world will. Will carry on, and we will find other ways to do with our thing. That's a great point, Connie.
That's a
There's
really good point.
50% or 100% if you leave it there. A lot of people are making about those decisions right now. RSPs are a scam.
Well,
Um,
that's actually a good point. So if anybody didn't know, RSPs were basically the deal that got sold. I think that was after World War II that they created those. I can't remember exactly where it is when they started that. But basically, the idea was, hey, we want people to be able to take care of themselves and they're terrible about saving, so we'll help them out. So we'll defer taxes. So you can think of RSPs essentially like deferred taxes. So you don't pay any money into them at the beginning. You get a tax break while you're working for putting those away for savings, but they want their pound of flesh at some point, right? So you're going to have to pay those taxes at some point. So the question that I always ask people is if you don't trust the system, why would you keep them in RSPs at all? Right? So you're going to pay the taxes no matter what at some point. The question is how much, right? And so, yeah, you're going to get dinged for more taxes, but then you get the asset, which is your cash, to do whatever the hell you want with, right? So the question with RSPs is always, how long do I think this system is going to survive? And if I don't think that's going to be very long, why do I care about the taxes, right? So just give me all that I've got now. I'll take care of it. It'll be in my hands and I'll do what I want with it. Screw you, government and bank, whoever else is holding your money, because again, it's your money that you invested, right?
mhm. What happens with mortgages when banks fail, Bryce?
That is a great question that I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's kind of uncharted territory. But if we looked historically, there's probably some precedent for that. Let's make two examples, right? So let's say that we have a grid down scenario where everything's wiped out. They might come to you and say, "Hey, we own this property, and how are you going to be able to prove it? Oh, we don't have any records of this anymore. We own this house." So you might want physical copies of your documents that show this is my house, this is my ID, this is who I am, this is where I was born, blah 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 blah. There's basically like how are you going to prove in a grid down scenario who you are and what you own, right? And so because everything's electronic now, right? So you want those papers on hand to prove that no, this shit's mine and I bought it and here's how much and this is blah blah blah, right? The second scenario is that it's not a grid down, it's a system down. So like the banking system goes down, and that I don't know because it depends on what type of system down. Is it just the decline of the US dollar? Is it like, hey, there's a bank run? Is it the bank's actually collapsing? That I don't know because all of those scenarios would be different.
There's a question here from Mouth, and my answer to this one is
Mm.
fractionals or small silver tokenized, rated graded material. 1 gram that will buy of silver, for example, these novelty coins that you can get right here are 1 gram of silver. That is how you keep it legit. Because if you try and walk into somebody's store with a handful of little silver dust, they're probably gonna go, oops. Just being a little bit facetious and comedic. But yeah, it's called fractionals. You can get really super small
Yeah,
denominations of it. You can either buy them like a credit card and you just
yeah.
break off
Actually, I
a
can show
couple of
that
pieces. So, yeah.
here. So let's. I'll actually show you because this is actually a good question, so you can see the difference. So I'm just going to pull up silver, gold, bull. So let's go to gold and say, where are they? Bars. I think it's bars. Wait, yes, go all the way to 1 gram. Nope, that's an ounce, not ounce, 1 gram. Give me a gram, bro. Oh, listening. There we go. Okay, here we go. So that's 1 ounce. Yeah, here's 1 gram. Yeah, so 1 gram, 1 gram of gold is 100 and basically, if you just bought one, it'd be $155. And there are how many grams in an ounce? I don't remember.
28.
1 ounce. Oh, okay, it is. Oh yeah. How do I not know that? So 28 times. Where's my calculator? 28 times 155. Yeah, so you pay a premium on that. So that's why I generally don't recommend it as much. But this is for gold, right? So why would I buy 1 gram of gold if I can just buy ounces of silver, right? So,
Yeah. You're not going to get the spot weight when you're buying fractionals. It's not about that. You're paying for the convenience of a smaller denominational currency. It's the same with silver as well. It's just that's why you get better rates when you buy more volume, an ounce or a kilogram, or those kinds of things. But that's just to answer the question that fractionals, small currency. There's all kinds of stuff but that's where you keep your mouth shut. You're not telling people that you got big bars of silver, but you hoard over a little grammar, and you can still do currency and nobody's really looking at you sideways, right?
yeah, exactly. And so just to illuminate this point a little bit more, so this is typically what most people buy is Canadian maple leafs, and so these are like worldwide accepted. And I actually talked to a guy that he was like, "Hey, how can we make a deal where I just buy a whole bunch of silver maple leafs or gold maple leafs or whatever and take them to Dubai because they just buy it sight unseen. They're just like, oh, you got maples, we'll buy them. So like the Canadian mint is like worldwide known. So like we're like one of the I don't know if this is good or bad. We're one of the pinnacles of the financial system. Take that for what it's worth. But the point that I'm going to make here is that if we go down to 10-ounce bars or 10-ounce, no, not 10-ounce coins, 10-ounce bars, bars, 10-ounce bars. There, 10-ounce bars right here. There we go. So 10-ounce bar. So this is the silver gold bull one, and not assorted. Yes, the Royal Canadian Mint. So you can see that it's about two. Would that be 50? Yeah, it's a $10 difference on 10 ounces. So we're talking like $1 difference that you save buying a larger. Oh, I guess you guys can't really see this. So this is $4.97, and it was like $51 for one ounce coin. And so what you're saving is like $1 per ounce, really. So you're not saving that much by getting a higher denomination. And like I said, we can usually save people. We can usually give people what the 100+ number is. That's usually what I do. Is that like, so this is what you would cost you. The bottom number is usually what we charge for the wholesale rate, or for the retail rate, because we get a wholesale, and that's how we save people a little bit of money. If you're wondering how we work, and so the benefit to me of buying these higher denomination bars is pretty limited, because who cares how much the denomination is, as long as you can use it for the transaction you're trying to take. And it's much easier to be like, well, I'll give you 2 instead of half of a 10-ounce bar or something like that, right? So that's why I always suggest people just get 1 ounce, because it's a universal measurement of the metal.
That's my Britannia's 1 ounce silver coins, right from Gold Silver Bull as well.
Yeah, they make some really beautiful ones. I really like this one. I had one that I gave away, unfortunately, but like they make some really beautiful stuff.
Yeah, that's my life savings in gold, a 2.5 grammer. So yeah, that's kind of the falls into the same thing there. Exactly that, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that driving at the gas station or the local thrift shop, you don't come across things like this, which is 1 troy ounce of 99% pure silver bullion from Beaver Bullion. So keep your eyes peeled, guys, because there is all kinds of currency out there.
Yeah, maybe that's something good to mention, is that so all of the stuff that we deal with, there's I think 39 mints across the world that are LBMA approved, and so London Bullion Market Exchange Market Association. They basically are like the regulator, or the standard, the level of standardization. So to be an official bullion mint, you have to be LBMA approved. So there's private mints that are not, and they can make all sorts of stuff, right? So as long as it's still pure, then it's good, right? But you may not know, and it may not be accepted, because there's basically 2 types of silver stackers, or people that buy precious metals. Well, I guess it's 3 if you count the people that don't know anything about it, they're just getting into it, and that's fair too. So the main 2 types of people are either silver is silver is silver is silver, and it doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter what it says on it, silver is silver. Or there's people that I only deal with the LBMA mints, because that's what's universally accepted, and they have an actual face value. So if I go back to let me show you this.
Those are the guys that are going to grade your coin based on usage, and if it's got any marks on it, or a thumbprint, or a fingerprint, or does it have King Chuck's picture on it, or that other any of the other things. Yeah, there's very different in the markets right now, but that's going to kind of probably simplify itself if things actually go sideways.
Yeah, and so what I'm showing you with this, and this is why some people prefer the Royal Canadian Mint and the other official sovereign mints, is because they have an actual not face value. Yeah, face value. Yeah, face value. So $5. So this coin is $50, but they have a face value of $5. And the gold coin is $50, even though it's like $3,500. But what you can do with that is that when you travel abroad, you can be like, hey, do you claim anything? We're like, yeah, I've got $20 in silver or whatever, and you have like 4 silver coins or whatever, or like $200 in gold, and it's actually worth like $10,000 or something. So because it's the face value, you're supposedly able to walk across the border with that. And because nobody, like I travel with a silver coin everywhere I go, just because I'm a broker and I get to whip it out and show people this is what I do, right? And nobody's ever said anything about it ever. So like I could probably do the same thing with a gold coin, but I'm not taking that much money with me in my pocket.
So are bullion sales rising quickly in Canada?
Yes, they are. And there's only about 0.5% of people that own precious metals in their portfolio. And so we're going to get really hit hard when the collapse happens, or when the depression happens. And so there's a huge opportunity there for anybody that doesn't to get into it, right? So this is the time. If you're on the fence about it, this is an opportunity to get into it, and not only protect your own wealth, but potentially make a significant amount of wealth as well.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I don't know if you're feeling like me, but I feel like I got another drink from the fire hose again. That makes it
Washing you
unanimous.
away, man.
I'm definitely going to have to put my brain in an otter box, or what do they call them? A Faraday cage for the weekend, I think. All right. Well, I don't have anything more to throw gas on the fire for that. So thanks again, Bryce, for all of the knowledge and information that you impart on everybody. In at the end of the day, I'm going to reaffirm this. Nobody's telling anybody out there what to do. We're just trying to help you do whatever is best for you. So whatever that might be, wherever that might be, just want more. The better prepared you are, the less we're going to have to look after each other.
Exactly.
Right?
And sorry, and I wasn't able to focus on the chat too much today because I was actually explaining stuff and doing stuff. So if I missed your question, feel free to reach out to me directly in the myriad of different ways you have option. We can chat.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. And on that note, whatsupcanada.org, you'll find a link to the website, and you can book an appointment with Bryce, and he will answer all of your questions. So, all right. Thank you very much, sir. Till next week. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the last show of the week. I'm not going to lie. I am grateful for it, guys. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend this weekend. Who knows what next week is going to bring. Don't forget to live a little as well, right? Things are moving fast and furious. The world, I don't believe, is going to end. We've got a long, grueling road ahead of us yet. So we need to look after each other. And thank you guys for all that you do in helping this platform keep going. Marion, you must have got here a little bit late. Whatsupcanada.org. Click on the button for precious metals, and you can set up an appointment with Bryce, or you can contact him on the link provided in the chat. So, on that note, what do we got here? Final buzzer stuff. Scrap C293, Scrap C63. Guys, it's time to think about the convoy in 2022 as the practice run, and start getting Canadians together to say no. Canada is lost, and none of this is ever going to come back if we don't get ahead of these bills and get them stopped. So you'll be hearing a lot more of that over the next couple of weeks. It's kind of like an ongoing obsession. But not just myself, but most of the thought leaders and the truth speakers are coming into alignment on it. That Bill C-293 is the existential threat to the end of Canada. That's why we have Mark Carney and these lunatics being as crazy as they are. So down there, you'll see the link to the Substack. You can always find that also on whatsupcanada.org. Get plugged in there. It's free. You can, if you choose to support the platform, pay. You can choose a paid subscription, $8 a month, 50 cents a show. Support local journalism. If you need to reach out to me, if you want some of those little silver F Trudeau coins, whatever the case might be, that is the best way to do it. We are not Trudeau funded or taxpayer funded except through your willing support. So support your independent journalists. I'm going to have a story to tell you guys next week that really rattled me in a good, positive, profound, and sobering way. I look forward to sharing that with you guys next week and honoring somebody that believes very, very strongly in Canada as well. So support your independent local journalists that is not Trudeau funded. Donate at What's Up Canada is the best way to help support this platform and keep it free for everybody else out there. So with that, I think I have used up my lungs for this week. I love you guys all. Stay mighty, my friends, patriots, prisoners, hostages, friends, family, everybody out there. Have an amazing weekend. And we'll see you same time, same place next week, Monday, 7 o'clock Eastern, Monday to Friday. And a different outro today. We're going to hear from New World Precious Metals on the way out. So I love you all. We'll see you Monday.
In times of global instability, soaring inflation and massive debt, gold and silver have proven to be unshakable pillars of wealth. New World Precious Metals, based in Calgary, Canada, is a leading international brokerage. We offer an easy, secure and cost-effective platform for investing in gold and silver, including our international wholesale program and registered retirement savings accounts. Protect your money outside traditional banking with our physical precious metals, privately vaulted outside the banking system, at secure, insured exchanges worldwide. Gold and silver have been trusted assets for generations, with current projections indicating high returns. And with unprecedented demand from governments, banks and investors, there are now shortages. Precious metals thrive during inflation, geopolitical instability, and currency devaluation. Sound familiar? Now is the time to invest in gold and silver, whether in your international investment account or by transferring registered retirement savings accounts. Experience the security of physical precious metals, combining the safety of physical assets with the flexibility of being like your own bank, offering instant liquidity and a financed line of credit. With precious metals on the rise, don't miss this generational opportunity to protect your wealth. At New World Precious Metals, we ensure your wealth meets its potential. Contact us today and our personal brokers will guide you every step of the way.